Welcome everyone. Again, this is our live Q&A. Any health and fitness questions you have, feel free to throw them in the comments. I'll get to them as I am able to see them. If you're watching this on replay, so you can still post your comments. We'll get to them in next week's live Q&A. We try to do this every Tuesday. So last week we talked about some things to think about with your approach to Thanksgiving and the holidays. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. What I kind of want to follow up with that is something I was reminded of from some of my experiences over the holiday weekend. The one of the other important aspects of immediately returning to your habits, your routines, the good habits that you've worked hard putting into play so far this year, other than just simply getting back on track and staying consistent. One of the other factors is the training that you we do for our appetite. And what I mean by that is if you've been doing any sort of dietary limitations or restrictions this year, the first few weeks, maybe even months, might have been pretty difficult. But as you got used to those portions and those amounts, it became easier to follow through with. One of the challenges with a lot of our holidays of excess being so close together and often having more than one gathering associated with it, whether it's multiple families that you're trying to meet with, um, holiday parties, friend parties, work parties, all the things that happen kind of between Thanksgiving weekend and New Year's. One of the factors that can happen is the retraining of that appetite. And it's not even necessarily retraining of your palate in the sense of only exposing it to rich, high sugar, high fatty, high salt foods and skewing what you're used to again. It's retraining it on that volume of food and the amount that you're used to having at your meals throughout the day or throughout the week. Your stomach, it is muscle. That's what helps with the digestion process. So just like any muscle, it can be trained. So if you kind of train it by overpacking it too frequently, it's that feeling of fullness resets to an association of that higher volume. And what you'll notice as a challenge is whenever you finally go back to try and reset that volume control, it's going to be another challenging and sticking point where the amount of food that was working for you before the holidays to get you full, keep you full, and last, all of a sudden isn't. And one of the big factors of that is that retraining of the amount of volume of food that you're used to make you full. So this is where we get back into the habits and the consistent aspect of things. So whatever you repeatedly do are your habits. So if too frequently you're having um, meals of splurge and excess and you're retraining the amount of food that is in one meal, you may find yourself struggling when you want to get things back in line with, okay, the volume that was making me feel fine before the holidays isn't working anymore. So still be mindful that if you want to have some fun foods, you can have some fun, but be mindful of the total volume. So if you're used to filling your plate to a certain amount of volume, you want to try and still keep your plate to that volume, even if it's maybe not the ideal layout that we've discussed in the past as far as prioritizing your protein, having 1 to 2 servings of vegetables, and then maybe a fruit or starch of around a cup or so serving. Even if it's not that makeup, you still want to try and keep close to the same volume of food at these events, because otherwise, if you're going to too many too often and you're retraining your stomach and your appetite on how much volume of food you can eat at one time, you're going to reset what that normalcy is for how much food you need to feel satisfied. And that can be a big challenge once New Year's comes around and you're looking to really get back in the swing of things and start making progress again. So be mindful, be careful about that. That's a big pitfall that I see a lot of people struggle with after making really great progress throughout the year. Maybe they're still keeping some of their calories and everything in line, but they're doing too much volume aspects that are resetting that baseline for fullness again. So something to be mindful of. Again, the big thing is you have a holiday, you have a party. We want to start returning to your normal habits as soon as possible so we're not reinitializing new habits. Because remember, even though Thanksgiving came as late as it's ever going to come in a year, we've still got about 5 solid weeks from Thanksgiving to New Year's. And those 5 weeks, that's enough time to lose some of the good habits you've started and lay foundations for unwanted habits if we do the wrong things too frequently throughout our weeks between now and New Year's. So keep your healthy habits, keep your exercise time, keep your nutrition habits as consistent as they were before, as close as you can. Again, if you have a party, you have holidays and stuff, I'm not saying don't have fun. What I'm saying is on the times when you're not at the parties, the holidays, we want to still stay as close to in line as possible to keep that consistent, keep the habits. Um, the average person in America from Thanksgiving to New Year's, we see 8 to 12 pounds gained more often than not. So if you can even just maintain between now and the end of the year, you'll be in a good spot because you maintained, we start dialing up our focus again come New Year's, and we can keep making progress. What I'd hate to see for people is you make great progress in the first 6, 9, 10 or so months out of a year, and a lot of that hard work can be undone if we're not staying consistent over the last 5, 6 weeks of the year. So habits are important. Honor your habits, honor the routines that you've created for yourself, and then enjoy the parties when they come, but just keep the parties at the party. Don't let it carry over into resetting habits and expectations. Just because you had dessert at a party doesn't mean we didn't need dessert every night now. Just because you had less vegetables at a holiday dinner doesn't mean we have less vegetables every meal now. Just little things like that, just be making sure that we're not undoing some of the habits that we've created um, and setting ourselves up for frustration come New Year's. So some things to think about. If you have any other questions on that, always feel free to throw them in the comments again. We'll discuss again next week. In the meantime, just remember to stay consistent in your persistent pursuit of health and have a great week.